Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am so blessed and so lucky because I'm joined by the beautiful Zena Dixon. Zena, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ken. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm so excited. We've been trying to make this happen for a while, and to finally be able to link up and make this happen means a lot to me. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are all of our best friends who loves horror movies. Over the past 12 years, your work has been featured on Bloody Disgusting, Dread Central, Horror Hound, El Rey Network, and more. And you are currently the head of the Bloody Disgusting TikTok, as well as the co-host of the official Bloody Disgusting podcast. So if that's not enough feathers in the horror cap, I don't know what is. So I guess the biggest question I have is, how do you manage your time to be able to do all these amazing things?
Well, first, thank you so much. You are very, very kind and super organized. Well, I actually do this full time. Back in 2019, I was working a corporate job and it was sucking the life out of me. Even though, the people there, they were so awesome. They knew about my love for horror. They even would let me watch horror movies at work. It was
Ooh.
Yeah, they were super supportive. But yeah, I wasn't getting I had this is gonna sound kind of gross, but I had this itch that needed to be scratched type of thing where I
I get
wanted
it.
to like put my energy into that. So then yeah, I decided 2019, I think yeah, December 2019 is when I stopped my corporate job, and then starting off in the year 2020 is when I started just doing everything full time. And then I freelance, I do social media like on the side just because social media is fun. It makes me
Mhm.
happy. Yeah.
Well, and you're talking about your social media. The best thing is you guys don't got to go hunting to look for her because I have all of her links down in the description. So make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube. Make sure you're following her on all her social media pages. And you should already be listening to the podcast anyway and following the Bloody Disgusting TikTok because where do we get all our news from? Bloody Disgusting, Dread Central, Daily Dead. Those are my three daily doses of
Yes.
horror news all the time. So working for Dread Central, Bloody Disgusting, Horror Hound, which also puts on an amazing film festival, an amazing convention. What I know you said you do this full time. You had the corporate job and you just finally decided to get out there. What gave you the push to go, you know what? This is what I want to do with my life. I have maybe 100 years on this planet. I'm
Hmm.
done spending it not happy. I'm going to go make it happen. What gave you that push to finally go out and do that?
Oh man. So again, I had a pretty cool job. It was very chill. They knew about my love for the genre. They actually supported it and they wanted horror movie recommendations. So it was kind of like an easy transition. Like everyone knew it was coming, type of thing. I think it was just because sometimes I would come back home and I was just drained. I was just exhausted and I don't feel like I was being creative. And like a lot of people, I feel like I'm a creative person. So I just had like all this filming equipment around, but I wasn't using it, and you try to invest in yourself and you buy the products, but then when you're not actually doing it after a while, like not even trying to sound dramatic or like a fortune cookie, but when you feel like you have a calling, right? And even though the job is great, they're supportive. There was just something that was there that's just like, no, this is not it. You're supposed to be doing something more. So even when I started working at the job, I always knew that this isn't path, you know, and I try to push that to the back. And then I was still working there. I would still, at the time, I think I was writing, I had my blog, so I would just still write on my blog. I was writing for Dread Central, sometimes doing some set visits, which was really awesome. But again, it was like after I would use like my, pay time off, and then I'm back at the office. I'm back at my cubicle, even though it was pretty awesome. I had a really great view, but it wasn't there was just something that was just there that was just telling me that this is not for you.
And I don't want to sound dramatic either, but I'm really glad that you did take that out because now you're doing something that is so special to a lot of people, and you have a lot of people that really genuinely love the work that you do, all the hard work you put into things. And when I can turn on one of your videos and I hear "Let's talk about genitals," I know I'm in for a very good time. So like I said, I've always been a big fan of your work and what you do and the knowledge you have of the horror community and the horror genre in general. So that's the perfect segue because, Zena, in order for you to have all this amazing horror knowledge and be such a big impact in the horror community, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now I want to go back to the past and talk about
Okay.
what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Zena, the first horror movie you watched was
Night of the Demons, 1988.
oh, I love this movie. This is a movie that growing up was kind of like a fun Halloween watch for me.
Yeah.
I was one of those people who watched horror all year round, but this is definitely a movie you gotta watch at Halloween time just because of the setting and what happens in the movie. So,
Hmm.
do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
This was like probably like the early 90s, and I was 4. And I remember watching it. This is I talked about this before, and usually when I tell people, they're like, "Wow." So my family, we are huge horror fans. My mom is a huge horror fan. She's been watching them since she was a kid. And so, we would go to the video store, we would all be able to pick out a video. But then after a while, we sometimes wouldn't even be able to watch it because I'm the youngest of 6. So there's no way, right? So my mom would just end up picking the movies for us. And I want to say, like, say if we picked 3 movies, out of those 3, 2 of them were horror, right? And so I had a choice, as a kid, either, I can be in the living room, partying with everybody else, watching movies, or I could have been in my room. And who wants to be alone? I didn't want to be alone. So I would just sit there and I would watch it. And so it's kind of like our bonding time. So even when we would go on vacation, we would watch horror movies. We would go to the movie theater. Like I remember, I think I was like maybe 5 when I saw Interview with the Vampire. Like, well, I don't know. My parents took me to the theater. I mean, I'm fine.
Right.
We all say that. I'm fine. But yeah, and my family's pretty normal because that's another question too. Like people try, well, what was it like? It was just like we're a pretty normal family. We just watch horror. Like what? What kind of question is that? But you get what I'm saying with that.
Oh,
But yeah.
I've said it numerous times. I watched horror at a very young age. I
Hmm.
have a 16-year-old son, an 11-year-old daughter, and a 4-year-old daughter. Ashley and I, we got married in high school. We've
Oh,
been together 19
cool.
years and we grew up the same.
Hmm.
And I've always said it's just like anything else in the world. As long as you have the education to go along with it, I feel it
Right.
grounds us more in reality. We learn
Exactly.
the difference between fact and fiction, fantasy
Hmm.
and reality. And there are consequences for your actions. And watching horror movies, I'm not going to let my kids watch a Serbian film, but if my
Exactly.
kids are interested in watching a horror movie, I would more than happy watch it with them. I don't force it on them. I let them
Mhm.
gravitate to what they like. And if that's something they want to do, absolutely. And I'll educate you. The films I've been in, my daughter got to go to set with me one day and see my face get ripped off. So she got that
Wow.
experience of watching dad get the makeup put on him and stuff like that. So I completely understand where you're coming from. There's
Hmm.
this weird, like, this weird vibe around horror people, like, oh,
Hmm.
you guys are fucking weird. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're kind and sweet and loving, and
Exactly.
we just watch what we love. It gives us this high that we can't get from anything
Hmm.
here. So we know that you were a very young lady. Watch this movie with your amazing mother, might I add. But I do got to ask, because this is a movie that, especially for a younger person, would be very, very impactful.
Hmm.
It is kind of, it does give you that cheese now that you're an adult. You get to smile a little bit, but as a kid, not at all. So, do you
Right.
remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
So I do have a couple, and I mean, I
Okay.
feel like we'd be here for hours, but I'll try to keep it down. But the first one is honestly the opening scene because it's an animation. So I remember not even knowing, it was like a VHS, my mom put on for us, and I remember like, oh, it's like a Halloween cartoon movie. Cool. So I'm like into it, and at the time I would watch anything that was a cartoon, right? It had some cool music, there was some ghosts, it's just stuff flying in the air. I'm with it.
Right.
Then, it cuts to that pumpkin on top of the car, with Stooge, Roger, and Helen. And I'm like, oh, it's not, And then it's funny too, because even when I rewatch it, it's like you can look at it and see, that's a set, it's a set, it looks
Right.
like a set. But as a kid, I didn't know what to expect, and just for it to transition like that. And I was already locked in because I was curious if that animation scene, if it's gonna come back again.
Mhm.
So I kept watching. And yeah, there was some stuff. I saw some stuff that I shouldn't have seen as a child, but
Yeah.
like we talked about, I'm fine,
Right.
you know?
And like I said, the education to come along with it. And You know, you talked about the amount of scenes in this movie. I mean, and you got obviously the iconic scenes like the dance scene. You know, everybody talks about the dance scene and how iconic that scene is. And it
Yeah,
is a great scene. Don't get
it
me
is.
wrong. But when you have scenes in movies like this that are so iconic,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's irritating.
Yeah.
Because that scene is so iconic that we don't talk about how amazing the rest of the movie is. And I love the
Yeah.
dance. Don't get me wrong, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many great scary scenes in this movie. And you know, we talked about the opening, but we talked about a couple other ones that really, really impacted you. Do you want to talk about a couple of those?
Yeah, okay. So another one that I really liked, and obviously, duh, spoilers. This movie is just an old movie, so it's fine. But the scene where pretty much Suzanne, she gets possessed, right? And she gets okay, I feel like I'm jumping ahead. Let's jump backwards.
Okay.
So okay, because again, there's so many. It's got my list. I just pulled it up. First, the mirror scene. Okay. So as a kid, a 4-year old, I was just like, I knew that that was a bad. I knew it was a bad idea that they were going to Whole House, and I'm just like, why would you do that? As a kid. But I'm
Right.
not gonna lie, things kind of changed for me just a little bit when I remember I rewatched it when I was in high school because I used to watch it a lot with me and one of my other friends he's also like a huge fan, right? And so, in a lot of ways, I kind of related. Would I have been there? Maybe, and I probably would have decided to leave, but it probably would have been too late, right?
Right.
So, the mirror scene, they pretty much decide to have a seance by staring in the mirror, calling to a demon, to just invoking something that you shouldn't be invoking. I have a similar experience that again, when I was in high school with a friend of mine, one of my best friends, she started hanging out with this girl. They had a lot in common. Me and the girl, we weren't like cool, but we didn't have a problem. But basically, the girl was into some stuff, and she taught her how to make like a Ouija board. And so then my friend wanted to show me how to make a Ouija board. And I remember we were at her apartment. Her aunt, she lives with her aunt. Her aunt wasn't home. And it was just me and her in her room on the floor in the dark with a candle. And basically right outside her room, there was like this, like it's like a cupboard, like a very heavy door that you can't just push it like that.
Sure.
You have to use both hands. You have to put a lot of force into it. She made the Ouija board. We're sitting there and she's like calling to something and talking about opening up a door. And I knew better. I knew better because I did watch Witchboard, you know? So my point is, I've been in positions like that where it's just like, I knew I shouldn't. And plus, it's just like, girl, I've been watching like horror movies all my life. So why
Right.
would you do this? Now you're in a horror movie, you know? Point is, we did hear something. It was something very creepy. And then, yeah, I never went over her house again.
Yeah, that was one of those peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
And you get that seance scene, and you know what I love even to this day is when he's like, "This bitch is tripping." It's like, listen, like you're not helping the situation, man. Um, so we know like a couple of the scenes that affected you, but what would you say your favorite scene from Night of the Demons is?
I really love the scene where Judy and Sal, they are hugging. They're reconnected and Sal was just so crazy about Judy. I really liked Sal as a kid. I think I had a crush on him. And fast forward, Roger was there. He saw Angela floating coming towards them down the hallway. He didn't say anything. He just left. And I
Yeah,
love that scene because I would have done that as well. And I know that's mean, but you know how sometimes it is. You're scared. You are scared. So it's just like sometimes you do some stuff when you're scared.
that's one of the most realistic scenes. You know, he
Hmm.
sees her floating and he's like, "Nope, fuck this. I'm out. This is too much." Because he was all,
Right?
his dad was a pastor. We've already gotten into that. Like he's already
Hmm.
talked about the evil and what he believes, and now he sees this, and he's just like, "Look, I've warned you. Now I'm just gonna go. I've
Yeah.
tried to tell you guys, but now I'm just gonna go." So,
He did, At least
right.
he told you beforehand, but it is what it is. But yeah, Roger, he's that guy. He's 100% that guy. So relatable. Like
Later on in the movie, he does something else that you remembered pretty well too.
yes, when he throws himself through the door, like through the glass window, like that. Like I said, as a kid, I've never seen that before. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that he did that. I thought that He was going to try to fight them. And then when you think about it, what else can you do but throw yourself through a window? And it's like, honestly, I would rather go through that than deal with some, demons, multiple demons.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're that you cared about these people at one time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not, like we always get to that point of realism. Like, well, if I was in The Walking Dead, I would be like Rick or Daryl. Bro, I want to burn my house down and leave when there's a spider. Like,
Right.
don't talk to me about zombies coming at me. And let alone if they
Exactly.
were people at one point I really, really cared about, people that I genuinely love.
Mm-hmm.
There's still that part of me that's going to see them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump out of a window just to try to get away and be safe. So,
I
um,
do not blame you.
and obviously now, Hollywood remakes, requels, sequels, kind of all the rage. People love to do it now. Is this a movie you would like to see them take a stab at today, or is this one that you kind of would like to let a sleeping dog lie?
Honestly, I'm open to remakes, reboots, requels, all that stuff. At one point I used to be like, no, leave it alone, leave it alone. But we have a choice in life. Either you can
Right.
watch it or you don't watch it. Because I'm not gonna lie, is it the 2009? It came out 2009, I think. The Night of the Demons one. I'm not a fan of that one.
Mhm.
And if I'm being completely honest, and I think it's also because I am biased because of how I feel about the 1988 one.
Sure.
So it's just kind of like whenever I'm watching like the franchise, because I have marathons with my husband or myself, for funsies. And when I'm watching it, like I just do 1 to 3. And
Right.
that other one. But I'm open to it. But you know what? I remember a couple of months ago, I did have an opportunity to finally meet Kevin Tenney, the writer director of the movie. And so I asked him that question. And he rocks as a person. So I asked him that question. I said, would he be open to it? He said that he would be, but he said that he would like to see it as a series. And it's like, I think that that would be awesome if it was like a mini series,
Yeah.
type of thing, maybe like 6 episodes, loading that would be incredible. But yeah, I'm totally open to that.
That's one thing that I've always said about this movie. It feels like, that first act is there, and then your
Hmm.
second and third act are just batshit because they tried
Yeah,
to put so much into it with so much characters. And I'm
yeah.
not knocking the movie by any stretch, but
Hmm.
as like you said, a 6 episodic thing, I think you could do so much more because of the amount of storytelling that you'd be able to
Right.
do throughout 6 episodes rather than an hour and 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
I would totally be down with that. I think that would be a great idea. So um Night of the Demons does have its fair share of kills, and as horror fans, we do love the kills.
You
So,
do.
which kill would you say was? I hate saying favorite. That's so dark. But
Yeah.
what would you say the kill that stuck with you the most was from Night of the Demons,
So like as a kid or just in general?
just in general?
Okay. Now I really kind of like Helen's death because you know what? They targeted her. They did. They targeted her and then she just got snatched up. And then the next time we saw her, she's just like splattered on a windshield. It's horrible. Like I felt horrible for her. And she was so scared. And again, by the time that she decided to leave, her and Roger, it was like it was too late. But I felt bad for her. I really did. Poor
And that
girl.
scene with Roger too, where he's just like, he's walking along the wall talking to her, and then he's just, and then
Hmm.
he's hiding in the car when you get that splat, and you're just like, and it still looks so good even
Yeah,
today.
it does.
Like when you get the dummy splat, like it looks
Hmm.
good. His reaction, it's visceral, it's great. Um, I'm a huge fan. So
Hmm.
I do gotta ask, I've had an amazing time talking about Night of the Demons and what that means to you. But I do want to throw you a little bit of a curveball here for a second. My
Okay.
little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite scary movie, Zena? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
So this one it usually is on the list, but I can give another one. I really love Stuart Gordon's movie Dolls. I just think
Oh,
that, yeah, I love like magical fairy tale type of feel, type of horror movies. And I remember watching that one as a kid and I loved it. And then years later, I remember watching, because I feel like this could be like a cool double feature. There's this movie called Spellcaster. I was just tweeting about this earlier because I rewatched it, called Spellcaster. I think it was made in like the late 80s, but then it wasn't released until like the early 90s. And basically, it's about these people. They're a part of this contest at this castle where they have to find $1 million check. And if you find the $1 million check, you get to keep it. So it's kind of like Willy Wonka, but a horror
Mhm.
version. So there's like some creepy stuff going on. A couch comes to, well, it's not a couch, it's like a chair, and it has like a lion's head, and that comes up. Oh, spoiler. It's fine. It's fine though. Comes
It's
alive.
early 90s.
Yeah, come on. So, but yeah, I like movies like that, and then something more, I guess, modern. Because again, see, I can keep going. It depends on what kind
Yep.
of horror, but something that's more modern, something that recently scared me. 'Cause I feel like I watch a lot of stuff that's just like, you win some, you lose some type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, well, I really like the director Paco Plaza, and so he directed Veronica from 2017 or 18, and
Yeah.
that movie creeped me out. Once again, girls doing a Ouija board, messing around in a basement. So
Have you
yeah,
seen have you seen Sister Death yet?
I have seen Sister Death. I loved it. Like to me, Paco
So did
Plaza can't
I.
do no wrong. He can do no wrong. There's still some creepy stuff that's going on, and it's
Yeah.
very satisfactory, like satisfactory. I can't even talk right now. There's like a satisfaction type of level to it because
Yes.
if you did watch Veronica, there's something at the end for you, and it's just like, oh, yeah. So
Yes. When
know,
you get that click at the end, you're just like, yes, that's
right?
amazing. So when you brought up Veronica, I had to ask right away because I thought both those movies were fantastic. And I know a lot of people really didn't like Sister Death, and I
Yeah,
didn't get it. I was like,
I,
I
I,
think this
I
movie's
never do.
fantastic.
Yeah, I never do. Like, I don't know if it was maybe sometimes I feel like because I watched that one in a group, and I think I started to see when it was losing people, but I think it's like the slow burn part that
Yeah.
kind of lost people. But sometimes I feel like that kind of like builds up the tension.
Yes. See, I'm a big fan of the slow burns, and I love when you can get me with an ending that I really like. It shocks me. And the
Yeah.
ending of this kind of reminded me of the ending. I don't want to spoil anything, but it reminded me of the ending of Glass and the feeling I got at the ending of the
Yes.
movie Glass. I'm not going to go
Hmm.
any deeper into that, but if you guys haven't seen Veronica and Sister Death, I strongly recommend it. They're foreign films, very scary, very
Hmm.
well done. They are beautiful, beautiful looking films with a lot of very scary imagery. Cannot
Yes.
recommend these movies enough. And like I said, the end of Sister Death gave me Glass vibes. I was just like, oh yeah, that just happened. And I'm
Yeah.
so happy. Um, so Zena, I've had an amazing time talking about your first horror movie, some of your favorite horror movies and all that. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're
Hmm.
gonna go back to Night of the Demons, and what we're gonna do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not going to rank this on acting, production, score, direction. We're not being critics. What
Okay.
we're going to do is rank Night of the Demons on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective,
Hmm.
5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle.
Okay.
Zena, what would your ranking of Night of the Demons be?
This should be no surprise. I'm gonna give it a 5. Because I feel like I've watched horror movies before, like before that. Some I remember, some I don't. Like there was this one, was it was a bug one. And I mean that explains why I don't like bugs.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it was ticks. I don't think it was ticks. It was something else that like ruined my life. So anyway, point is, this one kind of intrigued me. Yeah,
It was
but
something else that just ruined my life. That's it.
it ruined my life in the best way. Like,
Right.
ticks, arachnophobia, like spiders are like, I'm right there with you when it comes to spiders. Like, have
Yes.
you seen Infested?
Not yet. And I just seen you talking about it too. I have to
Oh my
watch the
God.
movie.
Good luck. Like it's good. It's really, really good. But I was screaming while
That's
watching it.
that's
So
what I've heard. So I'm trying to brace myself. Me and Ashley are gonna watch it. We are gonna do a review on it, but
oh,
I
awesome.
gotta be in that mind frame first.
Okay.
So
I get it. I get it. But just I'm sorry, I keep on going down rabbit holes. You asked me a
no,
question.
please, I love this. Um,
Um, yeah, I give it a 5 because I've watched other horror movies before, but there was something about this one that it terrified me. There were funny parts, even as a kid, I thought was pretty funny. Like, the character Stooge was funny. Sal was
yes.
funny, when he said that was it Stooge must be wearing his mom's dirty pants or
His mom's
something.
dirty underwear.
Yeah, something crazy. So there was like a lot of fun stuff, but even the way I remember when Suzanne, like her face, when it just turned and the way she was like gouging out Jay's eyeballs. Yeah, the whole lipstick scene. I thought that's something that could happen. I didn't know. I
Right.
found you don't do that. It doesn't, it's not true, you know. I didn't try it ill,
I said, no
but
matter
I'm
how many
just
times you
saying,
try, it doesn't work.
no, gross. I would never. But yeah, there was just a lot of scenes that did creep me out. And I love the fact that, again, because we touched on Roger, and like you said, Roger was very realistic. I feel like he represented a lot of us horror fans who just would even just, or even moviegoers, people who would just watch movies, and this is what you would do in a situation. And even touching back on what you said, even with like with The Walking Dead, I always talk about this all the time. Like if there was like a zombie apocalypse, I wouldn't survive. And I know this because I'm scared. And, you know, I know it's like real Queen of Four. Yeah, but the queen gets scared, you know? So, and my legs become like jello. So, yeah, unless someone picked me up and carried me, then maybe. But even with that, like, I don't know. I'll be too scared to do anything. So, point is, it just made me so attracted to just the genre and I wanted more.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait. And I remember we watched it on the weekend. I remember the following weekend. I couldn't wait for us to rent more movies. And I remember wanting to rent that movie again, which I'm pretty sure that my mom did. You know, it was just a blast.
And it is a movie that's, like I said, it's such a fun movie to go back and revisit. You know, the feelings you get from this movie as a kid versus the feelings you get from this movie as an adult are two completely different feelings, you know.
Hmm.
And then you remember, I'm like, these are supposed to be high school kids. I'm
Yeah.
feeling kind of weird as a 38-year-old man. But you know, I do want to thank you again for taking time to come out and hang out with me and talk about your first horror movie. This has been such an amazing experience for me. And I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, make sure you are following Zena on all her social media links. They are all right down here in the description. So you're not going to regret it, and you're actually going to thank me for letting you do it. So, letting you do it. That sounds like such a condescending shithead thing to say. That's not what I meant. For guiding you to it. How
Um,
about that?
of
Zena, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
course.
Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.